Hi, this is Nick Lowry and my buddy Kyle Sloan, and we're going to go over some variations of some training ideas, doing some combinations of forms. And this is some old stuff that goes back with my teacher Chuck Caldwell and some of the other old timers. J.W. Bodie was reintroducing it the other day, and I'd kind of forgotten about it, but it's fun things to interact with. We're going to start with a basic release form, and depending on the system you're coming from, you may think of these as Shichihan no Kazushi, you may think of them as Musubi Rinshu, you may think of it as a basic off-balance form. We call them the releases, and basically we're starting with what we call number one release. Stepping to the outside, making a little accommodation around the wrist, and achieving a position relative to him where we're behind the arm. And this by itself is a great activity to develop off-balance skills and to develop following skills, to develop the control of Musubi and being able to take him into control right from the activity of his grasping. Now, that by itself is a great exercise, and you need to spend lots and lots of time working the basic release activities, the basic off-balances and the basic evasions that those teach. But it's also kind of fun to start combining those, taking it towards the randori paradigm, and combining them with basic elements of throwing and locking techniques that we have in our functional curriculum. So in the system from Tomiki Aikido, we have about 17 odd techniques that become the basis of our work up through Shodan. And that is a terrific body of material to start interpenetrating with these release ideas. So we're going to take the first release, and we come to the end of it, or to the place where we would be exhibiting the point of control into his posture and movement. And from this position, at the conclusion, where we would naturally just stop and go to the next one, at that time and place, we're going to say, wow, let's see what I can do. Well, I can go straight to Aigamae from there. Shomanate is a little odd because Shomanate works from the inside here, but Aigamae is very available. So look, bam, Aigamae, right off the bat. Cool. You can say, okay, I'm going to take number one release and say, Gyaku is very readily available. And you just start walking through your kata. I do it a little high, but it's still basically a gaeshi form. The ushiro ate suite right here. And walk through the entire system of what you can. You'll find that some releases or some situational positions at the end of the release are easy to accommodate a set of techniques and are tougher to accommodate others because the beginning position is not quite equal for all concluding ideas. And so if you go through the first release, we got up to the Shirawate there, we say, hey, Oshitoshi's pretty easy. Cool, that's nice to make. Maybe I'd like to do gaeshi as well. Good. That's fine, you can throw them or not, as you will. But the main thing is to get very conversant with the activity of hand changing. The hand changing that goes on in these are fluid and dynamic, and you don't have to do them fast. You start getting very, very facile with your hands and learning to pass the hands from one to the other and to start picking up in natural ways control mechanisms from hand to hand. And this is probably one of the best things that this sort of drill can do for you, is that it gets your hands operating in very natural ways. We know what the goal is. What number are we on? We're at the ninth technique, which is Uda Haneri. So we know that a hand change has to take place and a lock over behind his back. So we just need to sort of let our subconscious go and say, okay, what's the goal now? We're at Wakigatami. Wakigatami automatically. Very nice, no big deal. Where are we at now? The wrist technique. We're at Kota Haneri. And at Kota Haneri, we have to make a little change because the hand in control has to come under and make a little looping function in order to push the edge of his hand. And so we're making a little hand change here that gets us into this nice position. Kota gaeshi's next. Reach right over, Kota gaeshi. There's a couple of ways to get to it. That's my favorite. But you may prefer the Haneri form first, and that's fine as well. Tenkai's coming up next. How do I get to Tenkai from here? There's the hand change. And the change right here, tenkai. Good. What happens? Can I do a shionagi from here? Let's find out. Wow, well, I'm on the outside. I could make a shionagi if I reached up inside and turned in front of him, but that's sort of a bad tactic to do, so you might not want to train yourself to do that. It's possible, but personally, I kind of leave the shionagi out of this occasion, except as a sort of reflexive response. If I'm making a number one, and yeah, we start heading off in a particular line, I make a shionagi go in that line, but I probably am not going to come here and then reach to the inside here because I've opened myself up. If I want to make a shionagi go, I'm going to pass it off and do it in the line that he's already walking. So watch that. It's kind of interesting. We're at number one release, and rather than step in front of him, I just step across him and push his arm. Hand change at the top, and we've got a very nice shionagi there. Now we've got Mayatoshi. Again, do I want to get involved with twisting this up to try to go to the classic coil? Not necessarily, because Mayatoshi is basically just stepping in this line, so it works very nicely just number one position. You take that number one release. Where are we at? We're at Sumiyotoshi. Sumiyotoshi and the little hip switch. Very sweet right here. You can do a hand change too if you like. And do it more flamboyantly. And finally, we're at the 17th one, so here we go. Number one release has occurred. Where are we at? Hikyotoshi, opening that hip. And away we go. So, I encourage you to take your release forms and integrate them with your basic 17 forms and experiment for yourself. Pay particular attention to how the hands operate. As you get through them, you'll find interesting relationships. The hands operate coming back to the face here, like an Aigamae or they can slide past the face. You have like a Riminagi form. You can wind up gripping into the wrist with Yankyu type forms like here. Lots of interesting engagements and control positions can start bubbling out of this work that can start giving you some insight into how your hands need to fluidly operate and pass off control from one side of the body to your other as you're doing a more randori engagement with your Aikido. So it's a nice transitional active practice that you can be very creative with on your own. These particular ways of going about it are just happen to be the ways I like to approach it, but there's probably lots of other good mechanisms to be working with because everybody's advanced randori has its own particular qualities and fortes. So I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you enjoy playing with it. Let me know, give me an email sometime, and if you have any questions, feel free to write. Thank you.